The evening lights of the grand hotel glowed warmly, reflecting on the polished marble floor. The long dinner table was filled with the most powerful people in the city: business owners, wealthy investors, and politicians. It was a gathering where everyone wanted to be seen, where every word spoken carried weight. At the center of this glittering dinner sat Aisha, a young woman with calm eyes and a strong presence. She was the billionaire CEO of a company that had grown faster than anyone expected. But tonight, she was not greeted with admiration. Instead, her presence created a quiet tension around the table. Some whispered behind their glasses, others looked at her with half smiles that did not reach their eyes. Aisha noticed it all. She was used to the silence, the unspoken doubt that followed her wherever she went. People wondered how someone so young, and above all, a woman, could lead an empire that big. Her black dress was elegant but simple, with no unnecessary sparkle. She sat with perfect posture, but inside she felt the heavy weight of eyes that judged her. The dinner had started, but the atmosphere was not kind. A man at the far end of the table, Mr. Kamal, a well-known property tycoon, spoke loudly so everyone could hear. "So, Aisha," he said with a smile that carried more mockery than warmth, "running such a big company must be challenging for you. I mean, handling numbers and people at this scale is not easy." The table chuckled softly, pretending it was a harmless comment. Aisha's lips curved into a polite smile, but she did not miss the meaning behind his words. "Yes, it is challenging," she replied softly. "But challenges are what make success meaningful." Her words were calm, but they were not enough to shift the mood. More questions followed, each one dressed as casual talk but aimed like arrows. They asked if her decisions were truly her own, if her advisors perhaps carried more of the real weight, if her success was luck or timing. Each word added to the invisible wall building around her at that table. The waiters moved quietly, refilling glasses and placing dishes. Among them was Maya, a young waitress with warm brown skin and eyes that watched everything closely. She was new to this job, working late nights to support her younger brother. She noticed the way the guests spoke to Aisha. There was laughter at every other voice, but silence when Aisha spoke. Aisha kept her calm, but inside, old memories came alive. She remembered standing as a teenager in her small room, dreaming of a company that could change lives. She remembered people laughing at her when she told them her dreams. She remembered doors being shut in her face. Now, she had built something great, but even here, at this shining dinner, the laughter had only changed its form. She lowered her eyes to the food on her plate, untouched. Maya, moving silently with a tray, noticed this too. She had seen many guests come and go, but something about this woman's quiet struggle touched her heart. Suddenly, one of the older guests leaned closer and spoke again. "You know, Aisha, experience is everything in business. Maybe in another 10 years, you will truly understand." The table laughed. Aisha pressed her hands together gently, her knuckles turning white under the pressure. She wanted to respond, but she knew her words would only be twisted. That was when something unexpected happened. The guests began talking about international markets. One of them mentioned Japan, describing it in detail, though most of his words were half-true. He spoke as if he had full knowledge, but his broken facts showed otherwise. The group laughed again, enjoying his confidence. Aisha, who had spent years working with Japanese partners, listened silently. She wanted to correct him but stayed quiet, knowing they would not value her words. Just then, Maya, the waitress, stepped closer to clear a plate. She looked at the man, then at Aisha, and with a soft voice, she said something in fluent Japanese. The table froze. Her tone was respectful, her accent smooth, her words clear. She politely corrected the man's mistaken fact, and then added, still in Japanese, that Aisha was one of the few foreign CEOs highly respected in Japan for her vision. A heavy silence spread across the table. Eyes widened in surprise, forks froze midair. Aisha slowly lifted her head, meeting Maya's gaze. For the first time that evening, a true smile touched her lips. Maya lowered her eyes quickly, almost afraid of what she had done. She had only wanted to speak the truth, to defend someone who did not deserve such silence. But in that single moment, the entire mood of the dinner began to shift. Aisha's heart beat faster, not because she needed anyone's approval, but because, for once, someone had spoken when she herself had chosen silence. Someone unexpected. Someone unseen. And that was only the beginning. The silence after Maya's words hung in the air like a sudden storm that had stopped just before breaking. The guests looked at one another, unsure how to respond. Their laughter had died, and the confidence that filled the room just moments ago had vanished. Aisha sat straighter in her chair, her calm smile growing slightly. For once, the attention of the table had shifted not because of another mocking remark, but because of an unexpected truth. Mr. Kamal, the tycoon who had spoken earlier, cleared his throat. "Well," he said awkwardly, "that was surprising." He forced a laugh, but no one joined him. The man who had been boasting about Japan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He muttered something under his breath, pretending not to hear what Maya had said. But everyone had heard. Every word had been clear. Aisha turned her eyes to Maya. She wanted to thank her, but she also knew the girl had taken a risk. Speaking out during such a formal dinner was something waiters never did. It could cost her the job. Yet Maya had done it anyway. The conversation at the table picked up again, though the tone was different now. It was less mocking, more cautious. Some of the guests began asking about Aisha's experiences in Japan, but the interest still did not feel sincere. It was as if they were trying to cover up the awkward moment. Aisha responded politely, but she spoke little. Inside, her thoughts were no longer on them. They were on the young waitress who had spoken up when no one else did. Maya continued her work quietly, moving from one end of the room to the other. She avoided looking at Aisha, but her mind replayed the moment again and again. She hadn't meant to draw attention to herself. It was just that she couldn't bear to watch someone being treated unfairly. As the dinner went on, Aisha excused herself from the table for a moment. She walked toward the large glass doors that opened into the garden, needing fresh air. Her heels clicked softly against the marble, and her long black dress swayed as she moved. The garden outside was quiet, lit by golden lamps and the faint silver glow of the moon. Aisha took a deep breath, the cool night air calming her racing thoughts. She had faced worse moments in boardrooms and negotiations, but tonight had felt different. Tonight, she had been reminded that silence could sometimes be heavier than words. Behind her, a soft sound made her turn. It was Maya, carrying an empty tray. She looked startled when Aisha's eyes met hers. "I'm sorry," Maya said quickly. "I didn't mean to disturb you." "You didn't disturb me," Aisha replied gently. She stepped closer, her voice warm. "You spoke Japanese very well. Where did you learn it?" Maya hesitated, unsure if it was safe to answer. But the kindness in Aisha's tone gave her courage. "My mother taught me," she said softly. "She worked for a Japanese family for many years. I picked it up as a child, and later I studied more on my own." Aisha's eyes softened. "You must be very dedicated. Not many people speak it so fluently." Maya lowered her gaze. "I only spoke because I couldn't stay quiet. They weren't being fair to you." For a moment, neither spoke. The sounds of laughter and clinking glasses drifted faintly from inside. Aisha looked at the young woman in front of her, someone the world would usually overlook. Yet tonight, she had stood taller than anyone else at that table. "You were brave," Aisha said at last. "Braver than most of the people sitting inside." Maya's cheeks warmed, though she tried to hide it. I just told the truth. That's all. Aisha wanted to ask more, but before she could, one of the hotel staff entered the garden, calling Maya back to work. Maya gave a quick bow and hurried inside, leaving Aisha alone with her thoughts once more. When she returned to the table, the atmosphere had changed slightly. Some of the guests still avoided her eyes, but others seemed curious now. They asked her about her company, about the challenges she faced, about what drove her to keep going. She answered simply, never showing her full heart. For she knew their interest was shallow, only stirred by the small spark from earlier. Still, it was a reminder that even a single voice could shift the tone of an entire room. Later that night, when the dinner ended and the guests began to leave, Aisha stayed behind for a moment. She walked slowly toward the exit, her mind still filled with the image of Maya's steady eyes and calm words. Maya, clearing the last plates, caught a glimpse of her. Their eyes met once again. Aisha gave her a small, sincere nod of gratitude. It was not loud, not public, but it was real. Maya returned the gesture with a faint smile, quickly lowering her head again as she continued her work. Neither of them knew it yet, but this simple exchange, the quiet courage of a waitress and the silent gratitude of a CEO, was the beginning of something far greater than both could imagine. The night closed around the hotel, but the story had only just begun. The following morning, the city moved with its usual noise, cars rushing, shopkeepers opening their stores, and people carrying the weight of their own stories. Inside her office, high above the busy streets, Aisha sat by the tall glass window. She had meetings lined up, numbers to review, contracts to sign, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the dinner from last night. She remembered the laughter at her expense, the silence that had pressed down on her shoulders, and then, the unexpected voice that had broken it all. A simple waitress, speaking fluent Japanese, had done what no one else dared to do: defend her with truth. It wasn't just the words. It was the courage. Her phone buzzed. Her assistant entered with a file, talking about the day's schedule, but Aisha only half listened. She signed the papers carefully, hiding the storm of thoughts running through her mind. Meanwhile, in a small apartment across town, Maya sat at the edge of her bed, tying her shoelaces. The night shift had left her tired, but she had to get her younger brother ready for school. The boy, barely 10, clung to her as she helped him pack his bag. "Maya," he asked softly, "will you be home tonight?" She smiled, brushing his hair gently. "Yes, after work. I'll bring you something sweet." The boy nodded happily, trusting her words. Maya carried the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, but she never let her brother see it. She had promised her late mother that she would protect him, no matter how hard life became. That promise kept her moving, even when the world around her seemed too heavy. At the hotel later that evening, Maya wore her black and white uniform again, blending into the background as she moved between tables. Guests came and went, their faces different but their attitudes often the same: demanding, hurried, careless toward the staff. But tonight, she noticed something unusual. A woman in a simple gray suit entered quietly and sat at one of the smaller tables in the corner. It was Aisha. Maya froze for a moment, unsure if she should approach. CEOs did not usually return so soon, especially not without an entourage. Yet here she was, alone, looking calm but thoughtful. Taking a steady breath, Maya carried a menu to her table. "Good evening," she said politely. Aisha looked up, and her eyes softened. "Good evening, Maya." Maya blinked in surprise. The CEO remembered her name. "I didn't expect to see you here again," Maya said quietly. Aisha smiled faintly. "I didn't expect to return so soon either. But I thought it might be nice to enjoy a quiet dinner, without too many voices." There was a weight in her words that Maya understood. She handed the menu, but Aisha didn't glance at it. "What would you recommend?" she asked instead. Maya hesitated, then said, "The grilled salmon is good. And the soup, it's warm and comforting." Aisha nodded. "Then that's what I'll have." As Maya walked away, she couldn't help but feel a strange warmth. Most guests barely looked at her, yet this woman, a billionaire, someone far above her world, had spoken to her as if her opinion mattered. Throughout the meal, Aisha remained calm and quiet, but her eyes often followed Maya as she moved around the room. She noticed the way Maya balanced trays, how she smiled gently at guests even when they ignored her, and how her shoulders carried strength despite the weight of her work. When Maya brought the bill at the end, Aisha signed it without hesitation. But as she handed the slip back, she said softly, "Maya, may I ask you something?" Maya looked unsure but nodded. "You spoke Japanese so well last night. Have you ever considered using that skill in your work? Not just here, but somewhere it could be valued more." Maya's eyes lowered. "I've thought about it. But I can't leave this job. My brother depends on me. For now, this is all I can do." There was no bitterness in her voice, only quiet honesty. Aisha felt something shift inside her. She saw not just a waitress but a woman carrying responsibilities far heavier than most of those powerful men at last night's dinner. And yet, Maya's spirit remained unbroken. "You have strength," Aisha said. "More than you realize." Maya smiled softly, unsure how to respond. She simply bowed her head and returned to her duties. That night, as Aisha left the hotel, she looked back once more at the dining hall. Maya was clearing tables, moving with the same quiet grace. Inside Aisha's chest, an unspoken bond was forming. She had built her empire on strategy, numbers, and vision, but in that moment, she felt something new, an invisible thread connecting her to someone who had nothing to do with wealth or power. Maya did not know it yet, but her simple act of courage had begun to change the path of her life and Aisha's as well. Sometimes, destiny did not announce itself with grand moments. Sometimes, it began with a single voice at a dinner table and grew quietly, in the spaces between two people who understood each other without needing many words. And as the night grew darker, both women carried the same thought in their hearts, that perhaps, in a world divided by walls of wealth and status, a true connection could still be found. The week passed quickly, but neither Aisha nor Maya forgot the quiet exchange they had shared. For Aisha, the memory of Maya's steady voice in Japanese remained like a flame in her thoughts. For Maya, the CEO's kind words had given her a strength she didn't know she needed. One evening, Aisha sat in her office, the city lights glowing beneath her. She was preparing for a business trip to Tokyo, where she would meet with partners who respected her more than many in her own city. Her assistant entered with a stack of files, but Aisha's mind was elsewhere. She thought about Maya again. The girl had skills, real skills that were wasted behind a serving tray. Aisha wondered if there was something she could do, not out of pity, but because she believed talent should never remain hidden. That night, instead of going home, Aisha returned to the hotel where Maya worked. The dining hall was quieter than before, with only a few guests scattered at tables. Maya was there, her uniform neatly pressed, carrying plates with the same quiet focus. When she saw Aisha enter, her steps faltered slightly, though she quickly composed herself. She approached the corner table where Aisha sat. "Good evening," Maya said softly. "Would you like the same meal as before?" Aisha smiled. "Yes. But tonight, I'd also like to talk, if you don't mind." Maya blinked, uncertain. "Talk?" "Just for a moment," Aisha said. "When you're free." Maya nodded and went back to her duties, though her mind kept circling around the request. Why would a billionaire CEO want to talk to her? She was just a waitress, with no world of luxury or wealth to share. When the hall grew quieter, Maya returned to Aisha's table. She held her hands together, nervous but curious. You wanted to talk, she asked. Yes. Aisha's eyes were calm but serious. Maya, do you want to stay in this job forever? The question caught Maya off guard. She looked down at the polished floor, her voice quiet. I don't have much choice. My brother is still young. I have to earn money for his school, for rent, for everything. Aisha leaned forward slightly. I understand responsibility. I know what it means to carry someone else's future on your shoulders. But I also know you are capable of more. You have a gift with languages, and courage that many powerful people don't. Those things should not be wasted. Maya swallowed hard, her heart racing. Even if I wanted more, how could I reach it? People like me don't get such chances. Aisha's gaze softened. Sometimes, chances come when you least expect them. But when they come, you must have the courage to take them. Maya looked at her, unsure what to say. She wanted to believe those words, but life had taught her not to dream too far. Dreams could break too easily. Before she could reply, another waiter called her name. She excused herself quickly, but her mind stayed restless. Later that night, when her shift ended, Maya stepped outside the hotel. The air was cool, and the streets were almost empty. She was surprised to see Aisha waiting near the entrance, standing beside a black car. You didn't have to wait, Maya said nervously. I wanted to, Aisha replied. I'm leaving for Japan soon, but before I go, I want you to think about something. Maya hugged her thin jacket around her shoulders, shivering slightly. Think about what? About what you want your future to be, Aisha said gently. Don't answer now. Just, don't lock yourself in a cage that isn't meant for you. For a moment, they stood in silence under the streetlight. Maya felt a strange mix of fear and hope in her chest. Nobody had ever spoken to her like that, not like a customer to a waitress, but like one human being to another, equal in spirit. Aisha gave her a small nod before stepping into the car. The door closed softly, and the vehicle drove away, leaving Maya standing on the sidewalk with her thoughts spinning. At home later, Maya tucked her brother into bed. He looked up at her with sleepy eyes. Maya, one day will you have an easier life? You work so hard. She smiled, brushing his hair back. Maybe one day. For now, I just want you to study well. But after he fell asleep, she sat by the small window, staring at the stars. For the first time in years, a tiny voice inside whispered that maybe, just maybe, her life could be different. Meanwhile, in her hotel suite preparing for her flight, Aisha packed her documents carefully. Yet her mind was not on contracts or schedules. It was on the waitress with gentle eyes who carried her world quietly but bravely. Two women, worlds apart, now shared an invisible thread. Neither knew how strong it would become, but both could feel its pull. And as the night deepened, both carried the same question in their hearts: was this the beginning of something greater than fate itself? The airplane soared through the night sky, carrying Aisha toward Tokyo. She leaned back in her seat, closing her eyes for a moment. The trip was important, contracts to finalize, partners to meet, but her thoughts were not only on business. They drifted again and again to the young waitress who had spoken Japanese so fluently. Maya's words, her honesty, her quiet strength, they lingered with Aisha like a song that refused to fade. In Tokyo, Aisha was greeted with warmth. Her Japanese partners respected her vision and treated her as an equal, something she rarely felt back home. The meetings went smoothly, but when conversation slowed, her mind returned to the image of Maya standing in her simple uniform, speaking truths that no one else dared to say. Meanwhile, in her small apartment, Maya struggled through another week of work and responsibility. Her brother studied at the kitchen table, while she ironed her uniform late at night. Life continued as usual, yet something inside her had changed. Every time she carried a tray at the hotel, She remembered Aisha's words, "Don't lock yourself in a cage that isn't meant for you." The thought gave her strength, but it also frightened her. Could she really dream of something more? Or was it safer to keep her head down and work quietly, as she always had? One evening, as she returned from work, she found an envelope slipped under her door. She picked it up with trembling hands. Inside was a simple letter on white paper. "Dear Maya, I am writing from Tokyo. I hope this letter reaches you safely. You may not believe this, but I could not forget our conversation. I saw courage in you, and I believe you can achieve far more than you imagine. If you are willing, I would like to offer you a chance. My company is starting a small language program for international staff. We need someone who understands Japanese and can help with communication. It is not a big role, but it could be a step toward a new path. Think carefully. If you are ready, call the number at the bottom of this letter. The choice is yours. Sincerely, Aisha." Maya's heart raced as she read the words again and again. Her brother peeked over her shoulder, curious. "What is it, Maya?" he asked. She quickly folded the paper. "It's something important. I'll tell you later." That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The letter felt like a key placed in her hand, but did she dare open the door it unlocked? If she left her current job, what if she failed? What if the world outside was too big for her? But then she thought of her brother's hopeful eyes, of the dreams she once buried deep. And she thought of Aisha's quiet belief in her. The next morning, with trembling fingers, Maya dialed the number. A soft voice answered. "This is Aisha's office. How may I help you?" Maya swallowed. "This is Maya. I received a letter." There was a pause, then warmth entered the assistant's voice. "Yes, we've been expecting your call. Please come to the office tomorrow morning for an interview." Maya's knees weakened. She thanked the assistant and hung up, her hands shaking. She could hardly believe what she had just done. The next day, she wore her best clothes, not the uniform of a waitress, but a simple blue dress her mother had once given her. She walked nervously into the tall glass building of Aisha's company. Everything inside looked grand, from the marble floors to the shining elevators. When she entered the meeting room, she saw Aisha waiting. "Welcome, Maya," Aisha said softly. Maya bowed slightly, her nerves showing. "Thank you, for giving me this chance." Aisha smiled. "You gave yourself this chance. I only opened the door." The interview was simple. They asked her about her knowledge of Japanese, her ability to translate, her willingness to learn. Maya answered honestly, though her voice trembled at times. But every time she met Aisha's eyes, she felt calmer. At the end, Aisha spoke directly. "Maya, you have a gift. You are not just a waitress, you are someone with potential. If you join us, it will not be easy. You will face pressure, doubt, and challenges. But I believe you can rise above them. Do you believe it too?" Maya took a deep breath. For the first time, she allowed herself to say the words out loud. "Yes. I believe I can." Aisha's smile grew. "Then welcome to the team." Maya felt her eyes sting, but she blinked back the tears. It was not just a job. It was hope. It was a new beginning. That evening, when she returned home, her brother ran to her. "How was it, Maya?" She hugged him tightly. It was the start of something new. As she held him close, she realized that for the first time in years, the future did not look like a locked cage. It looked like an open road. And on that road, somewhere ahead, Aisha's presence shone like a guiding light. The morning sun painted the city in gold as Maya walked toward the tall glass building that now carried her hopes. She held her bag close and tried to calm her racing heart. It was her first day at Aisha's company. Everything felt different from the hotel dining hall she had worked in for years. Here, people wore suits, carried files, and spoke with confidence. The air was filled with the sound of phones ringing and footsteps echoing across polished floors. Maya felt small, but she reminded herself of Aisha's words, "You are capable of more. Don't lock yourself in a cage that isn't meant for you." At the reception, a kind-looking woman guided her upstairs to a training room. There were other new employees, most with university degrees and polished resumes. Maya sat quietly in a corner, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Some of the trainees exchanged greetings with one another, but when they looked at Maya's simple dress and shy posture, they gave her only polite nods before turning away. She could feel their silent judgment. The training began. A senior manager explained how the language team worked, assisting with international communication, supporting meetings, translating documents. When he asked if anyone knew Japanese, all eyes turned when Maya raised her hand. She spoke a few lines fluently, and the manager nodded with approval. But a few of the other trainees whispered, surprised that someone who once looked so ordinary could speak a language so well. At lunch, Maya sat alone with her small meal. She missed the comfort of the hotel staff she once worked with, even if the job had been heavy. Here, everything felt sharp, fast, and new. As she sat quietly, Aisha entered the cafeteria. The entire room seemed to pause. The CEO carried herself with grace, her presence strong yet calm. She walked straight to Maya's table. "May I join you?" she asked gently. Maya's eyes widened. Of course. The other employees stared in disbelief. Their CEO had chosen to sit with the newest, quietest staff member. Aisha ignored the whispers and spoke softly to Maya. "How is your first day so far?" Maya hesitated, then answered honestly. "It's different. Everyone here seems so confident. I feel like I don't belong." Aisha shook her head gently. "Belonging is not given, it's built. You will find your place here, Maya. Don't let the weight of others' eyes push you down." Maya nodded, her heart steadying at those words. In the days that followed, she began her real work. She attended meetings where Aisha spoke with international partners. Sometimes, Maya only sat quietly and took notes. Other times, she translated words when the flow of language became difficult. The first time she spoke up in front of a large group, her voice shook. But when she met Aisha's eyes across the table, she found the courage to continue. Some colleagues respected her skills, but others still doubted her. "She's just a waitress who got lucky," Maya overheard one of them whisper. The words stung, but she kept her head high. She knew why she was here, not because of luck, but because of effort, courage, and belief. One afternoon, Aisha invited Maya into her office. The room was large but not intimidating, filled with books, files, and a window that showed the endless city skyline. "Maya," Aisha said, offering her a seat. "You've done well these past days. I can see your effort. But I also know you doubt yourself." Maya lowered her eyes. "Sometimes, yes. I don't have the background others here have. I feel behind." Aisha leaned forward slightly. "Do you know what I had when I first began? Nothing but determination. People laughed at me, said I was too young, too inexperienced. But I kept moving. That is why I am here now. And that is why you are here, too. Not because of where you came from, but because of where you can go." Maya's chest tightened with emotion. She had heard encouraging words before, but never spoken with such truth. "I will try harder," she whispered. Aisha smiled gently. "Don't just try, believe." Over the next few weeks, Maya grew more confident. She made mistakes, but she learned quickly. She stayed late to study documents, practiced her translations, and asked questions whenever she was unsure. Slowly, Her colleagues began to notice her dedication. One day, during a meeting with Japanese investors, a technical term came up that even the senior translators struggled to explain. Maya stepped forward quietly, gave the correct meaning in both languages, and the investors nodded with approval. Aisha's eyes met hers across the room, filled with quiet pride. That evening, when Maya returned home, her brother hugged her tightly. "Maya, you look happier these days." She laughed softly, ruffling his hair. "Maybe because I finally feel like I'm building something." As she tucked him into bed, her heart swelled with both exhaustion and hope. She was no longer just a waitress blending into the background. She was someone walking toward a future she never thought possible. And behind her steps, always, was the guiding presence of Aisha, the woman who had seen beyond her uniform, beyond her fear, and into her true strength. The path was not easy, but for the first time, Maya believed it was hers to walk. The office was unusually quiet that morning. Maya sat at her desk, staring at the large folder in front of her. Today, she would present a translation report to a group of international investors, some of whom were known to be very strict. It was her first time leading such an important meeting alone. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her notes. She remembered the whispers from colleagues early in her journey, words meant to shake her confidence. But she also remembered Aisha's voice, "Don't just try, believe." That simple phrase now echoed in her mind, steadying her heart. When the investors arrived, Maya stood to greet them. She bowed politely and spoke clearly, her Japanese precise. Aisha sat at the corner of the room, observing quietly. She didn't interfere, but her presence gave Maya an invisible strength. The meeting began. The investors asked questions, some simple, some complex. Maya answered each one carefully, translating both languages smoothly, clarifying misunderstandings. One of the investors leaned forward, raising a question that none of the senior translators had been able to answer. For a moment, Maya froze. Her palms were sweaty. But she took a deep breath, remembering her first days at the company, her brother waiting for her, and Aisha's faith in her. Then she spoke. Her voice was calm, her words clear. She explained the term fully, with the right context, making sure both parties understood perfectly. The investors nodded, impressed. A few even smiled. Aisha allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. The young woman in front of her, once timid and unsure, had grown into someone capable, someone confident. The rest of the meeting went smoothly. Maya answered every question, navigated every misunderstanding, and maintained a calm professionalism. When it ended, the investors thanked her, praising her skill and dedication. As they left, Aisha stood and approached her. "Maya," she said softly, "you did more than just translate. You represented yourself, your team, and the company. You were amazing." Maya's chest swelled with emotion. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I couldn't have done it without your guidance, and your belief in me." Aisha shook her head gently. "No. You did it because you were ready to take the step. I only opened the door. You walked through it." For the first time, Maya truly understood the meaning of her journey. It was not about luck or chance. It was about courage, effort, and belief in oneself. Later that evening, Maya returned home, tired but glowing. Her brother rushed to her, hugging her tightly. "Maya, did it go well?" She laughed softly, holding him close. "Yes. It went better than I imagined. I think I'm finally on the path I was meant to take." Her brother smiled, his eyes bright. "I'm proud of you, Maya." The next day, Maya found herself walking through the office with a new confidence. Colleagues who once whispered now nodded politely, some even complimenting her work. She did not let the attention change her. She remembered how it had felt to be invisible, and she carried the memory with humility. In a quiet moment, she walked past Aisha's office. The door opened, and Aisha stepped out, smiling. "You've grown so much," she said. "And this is only the beginning. Your journey will have challenges, but I believe you can handle them. You have proven yourself today, Maya, and I am proud of you." Maya felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them away. "Thank you, Aisha. I I won't forget this. I'll work harder every day." Aisha placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I know you will. And remember, strength is not just in skill, it's in courage, honesty, and heart. You have all three." That afternoon, as Maya returned to her desk, she thought about the path she had walked. From the hotel dining hall to this office, from being judged and overlooked to being respected and trusted, her life had changed in ways she never thought possible. But more than the promotions, the praise, or the skill, what she valued most was the connection she shared with Aisha. A bond built on respect, belief, and courage, one that had lifted her when she needed it most. Weeks passed, and Maya continued to thrive. She became an integral part of the team, handling international communication with skill and confidence. She and Aisha worked closely, their relationship growing into a quiet friendship. They did not need words to understand each other. The trust and respect between them spoke louder than anything else. One evening, as Maya walked home, she looked at the city lights and smiled. Her life had changed, but she had also changed herself. She had learned that courage could come from the most unexpected places, that kindness could open doors, and that belief in someone could change a life. She thought of Aisha, who had seen her not just as a waitress but as a person with talent and heart. And in that moment, Maya realized something important: sometimes, the right person believes in you before you even believe in yourself. Her journey was far from over, but she no longer feared the future. Instead, she walked forward with hope, courage, and a heart full of gratitude. And in that quiet strength, Maya knew she had finally found her place in the world, a place where talent was seen, courage was honored, and dreams were given a chance to grow.